The Democrat Party is completely imploding over this current government shutdown. None of it is going according to their plan. All of it is blowing up in their faces. Chuck Schumer looks like an absolute fool, and he definitely by this point realizes just how badly he screwed up. Plus, the Democrats are crying their eyes out over Trump's outrageous memes, mocking them during this government shutdown while he continues on with his agenda seemingly unbothered. I'm going to cover all of that here. Plus, a new MAGA cancellation culture campaign has been officially launched, and Netflix seems to be the target. I'll tell you why that is and what's going on, plus all of the consequences Netflix is already facing as a result of it. Elon Musk comes into play here once again. And then finally, I'll be revisiting a story that I broke here on American Advocates. You likely heard it first here if you've been tuning into this channel. Dearborn Heights, Michigan, and it's now 52% Muslim population. Yeah, things have developed even more since I announced that story about the Arabic police badges being developed there for their police officers. You won't believe what's gone on since then there. It will be alarming to you. It will be unsettling. You need to see this for yourself. So stay tuned for all of that right here, right now on American Advocates. We lead off here first and foremost. The government shutdown is in effect, and Trump and his administration are viciously capitalizing on it. Like I stated yesterday in my video about the government being shut down and how Trump was going to win either way. Well, we're seeing that come into play now. This article, actually already outdated information, as you can see here according to the title. America will see its largest mass resignation in history as 100,000 federal workers are set to quit their jobs today. This was, of course, published September 30th, 2025, which explains why the information is a little outdated here. But as of time of recording, that number is already up plus 54,000 more to 154,000 total federal workers who are resigning. They're quitting their jobs so that they can receive a sort of benefit from the Trump administration for doing so, essentially before Trump can fire them. Trump, in his good graces, has, of course, offered this. It's a sort of severance package here. You can see the article here. Today, America will experience its largest mass resignation in history as 154,000 federal workers are set to formally quit their jobs. It's a result of the Trump administration's fork in the road, deferred resignation program that staffers have taken up over previous months. Yeah, that's the thing. We've seen this go on now for quite a few months as the Trump administration has essentially vowed using the Department of Government Efficiency to fire people, to get rid of government workers. And as bad as that sounds, it's 100% necessary because a lot of these jobs are essentially meaningless. And these government workers on average are pumping in like 6 figures a year. That's taxpayer dollars that they're gobbling up for essentially doing nothing. It's been said that government workers make double the average salary of a regular American, but only have to work half as hard, and that's for a reason. Large part because during the Joe Biden administration, he artificially pumped up our economy with more government jobs to make it look like his Bidenomics were working, when in truth he was creating senseless jobs and overpaying people a fortune to do nothing. And that's all that it is. People are collecting paychecks paid by the taxpayer dollars for doing nothing. The article goes on to state they were allowed to transfer their workload and go on administrative leave until the official end date of the federal service on September 30th, 2025. The Office of Personnel Management tells Fortune that about 154,000 federal workers in total took the deal. There it is. So they do have the updated info, with the majority leaving today and others exiting by the end of the year. You can see this article goes on to state even better news. This year's decline of 300,000 federal workers, a stark contrast to white-collar employees job hugging. The U.S. federal workforce has been shrinking since President Trump retook office in January. His administration has been adamant on reducing inefficiencies, setting up the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, helmed by Tesla CEO Musk, which originally promised to oversee an elimination of $2 trillion in government waste, fraud, and abuse. Musk later reassessed his estimate down to $150 billion. Yeah, they come in wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, that's for sure, but any savings is good savings. It goes on to talk about USAID seeing the layoffs. And it's a liberally written article. You can see the liberal bias on this. So you can see I am concerned we will all be mass fired. A U.S. Department of Transportation staffer who was put on probationary term appointment told The Guardian in February, teams would be hobbled and gutted. It would be like closing your eyes and randomly throwing acid on a flower garden. You would just have dead spots and no planning for which ones. So stupid. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to Russ Vought, or Vote. I'm not sure exactly how to say his name, but he is like the conservatives' Terminator. And he has been chomping at the bit for this government shutdown to occur because this is where he will thrive. He's like the Terminator, programmed to eliminate these jobs, to terminate people from these useless government jobs, saving taxpayers millions of dollars. And the problem is, up until now, Trump has been marginally able to get rid of jobs. 5,000 jobs here eliminated, 10,000 jobs there. But he's been stopped every step of the way by Democrats and by the judiciary system. They've been weaponizing the law against Trump, as we've seen, and these low district court judges who literally order the president of the United States somehow to return some of these jobs back to federal workers, or at least they try to. And then Trump has to go through the appeals court, etc., etc. And it's just been a lengthy, unnecessarily drawn out process, all in an effort to slow down Trump's agenda, which overall would be great for the well-being of America. Once again, saving taxpayers tons of money in the process. But with the government shut down, nothing is standing in President Trump's way. And now he's free to unleash his attack dog Terminator here and cut the waste. Take a listen to this.
Estimate for us. Give us some ballpark numbers here. We've already had some sizable reductions in force. Actually, there's a number 300,000 floating around for this calendar year. That may or may not be the right number, but that number is floating around. Now, if there's a budget shutdown, as our own chat program suggested, almost ineluctably will be a budget shutdown, then you have the authority to reduce the federal employee count by roughly how much?
Well, I'm going to let those kinds of questions extend until tomorrow and the days after. Right now, where we are, we have hours to go before a government shutdown, and it can be avoided. And then we'll get in tomorrow. The preparation is all done. We have many options, but we're going to get in tomorrow and see where we are, and we're going to manage this shutdown and try to keep the American people from the havoc that the Democrats have caused on with their crazy demands. But let it be said, there are all manner of authorities to be able to keep this administration's policy agenda moving forward, and that includes reducing the size and scope of the federal government, and we will be looking for opportunities to do that.
And you've made that very clear to Mr. Schumer. It doesn't seem to move him, Russ Vought. That's what I don't understand. It will be worse. I mean, if I were he, and I'm most certainly not, but if I were he, I would want a continuing resolution and discuss all this stuff. I wouldn't want to hand the circular over to you, and he'll have to take some measures that he's not going to like one darn bit.
Well, I think he's got some time over the next several hours to come back from the brink, to work with his moderates to get a continuing resolution passed. We'll see how these votes come up, and then we'll see where we are in the morning.
All right. Well, Office of Management and Budget Director Russ Vought.
You can see right there he is anxious to continue cutting these jobs, terminating people from senseless jobs, and just to get to work. His department has been hindered, incredibly so, by the Democrats, who are just no longer there to stand in his way. He's actually taken a lot of action over the past 24 to 36 hours, and he's going to continue to do so all throughout today, because the next time that there will even be a vote on this bill to pass to fund the government and avoid a shutdown won't be till tomorrow. That would be, of course, Friday at time of recording of this video. So people are now estimating, even more so since that clip on Fox Business, the number could wind up being 400,000. I've even seen a crazy report stating that it could be 1.5 million, and I don't know if there's any credibility to that. But they've been waiting for this moment. They've been planning for this moment. And Trump has been incredible at strategizing for this to seize the opportunity. The silver lining of the government shutdown, yes, MAGA can't push their agenda the same way while the government shut down, but there's back-end agenda stuff like this that now will absolutely have an opportunity to pass right through with no restrictions, no pushback, nothing to slow us down, nothing to stop Trump from carrying this out. So, like I stated yesterday, Trump is still winning regardless, and the Democrats, my God, they are losing bad. There's no way that they could win this, but the truth of the matter is, the less devastating loss would have actually come from just agreeing to the bill and funding the government. By the way, the bill that the Republicans proposed to fund the government through the end of the year that the Democrats rejected was an unaltered bill that the Democrats had already created. The Republicans literally took that bill, a 24-page bill, not a large bill, not crammed with a bunch of partisan pork fat and partisan poison that the Democrats would have had to agree to that's blatantly against their side of the aisle just to keep government funded. No, it was 24 pages of clean-cut, bipartisan, non-biased, fund the government bill. That's what this was. And it was the Democrats' own draft, according to the reports I've heard. And you can probably guess why they still opposed it, despite it being essentially their own bill that they wrote many months ago. And it's simply because they want to defy President Donald Trump. It's a sickness in their party. Trump derangement syndrome is a mental illness sickness, reaching the highest echelons of society and politics now. All the Democrat candidates have been affected by it, except for like the 3 that voted to keep the government going. So much so that to their own detriment, they've chosen a government shutdown where Trump can just now operate freely without any opposition from them. And it's making them look terrible, especially making Chuck Schumer look terrible. And I'll get to that in 1 second here. But here you can see Representative Sarah. I don't even know how to say her last name. It's not worth even saying it or trying to figure out how. But it's just fun to watch her cry over these government jobs being eliminated, where she states she's offended. She's offended at the threat of jobs being lost. Take a listen.
Offensive that the president is threatening to fire federal workers if we can't reach an agreement without offering any meaningful solutions here. The president continues to threaten those workers, but please know, if you're a civil servant in the state of Maryland, know that we have your back as a team. That's why we're here today, to announce all the ways that our offices can continue to deliver for you each and every day. The federal government might be shut down, but our offices are working. We will answer every phone call.
You gotta love the verbiage being used here too. The Democrats still gaslighting the public, or at least trying to, and it's honestly pathetic at this point, stating that Trump is unwilling to cooperate and work with them and compromise or create a deal or whatever, unwilling to negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate. On one side, you have the Republicans drafting a clean-cut 24-page bill, bipartisan, non-biased. The Democrats essentially their own draft of the bill from many, many months ago. That's it. That's all the Republicans proposed. On the other side, you have the most unreasonable proposals from the Democrat Party that literally would require $1.5 trillion, not billion, trillion dollars of excess government spending. Most of that going towards illegal immigrants and free health care and a bunch of other socialist programs that the Republicans would never approve. Some of the Democrats don't even approve of it. So what's there to negotiate? This was a very deliberately orchestrated government shutdown at the hands of the Democrats. The Republicans had nothing to do with this. But you know, the Democrats have made their bed, and they're going to just be forced to lie in it for at least another 24 hours, and it could be even longer. Friday's vote could wind up yielding a similar result. Not enough Democrats vote because you need 60 or more votes. You need a super majority. If that doesn't happen, then over the weekend we go, with the government still shut down, heading into the next week. And it could keep going on like this for quite a while. And Russ Vought, right here, he's not just laying off jobs, he's also shutting down funding to a lot of the blue states. You can see this is a personal tweet from his X account where he states, roughly $18 billion in New York City infrastructure projects have been put on hold to ensure funding is not flowing based on unconstitutional DEI principles. More info to come soon from US Dot. Now, you just love to see that because, once again, this is an unobstructed action being taken. The Democrats cannot fight this. And what's even funnier is New York City, of course, is the city where not only Chuck Schumer is from, but Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is also from. And these are the two people who are largely responsible one very loudly so and one very quietly so for this government shutdown, the two Democrats at the helm here. And again, I'm going to get to both Schumer and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in just a minute, but first, I want to even bring this up as well because it just gets even funnier if you're a conservative watching this meltdown happen in our government, but way more devastating if you're a Democrat. This is now Senator Rick Scott, a representative from Florida, and he is pushing for new legislation to abolish paychecks for members of Congress during a government shutdown. He specifically states here, you'll see in a second, we shouldn't get paid if we don't do our job. Completely accurate. The thing is, if our post office workers aren't going to get paid or our military aren't going to get paid, if flood insurance won't get paid out to people who are victims of hurricanes in Florida, then why do Congress members still continue to be allowed to collect paychecks when they're the ones directly responsible for the government shutdown? It doesn't actually make sense. Take a listen to what Rick Scott has to say here.
September 30, I'm a business guy, I always pass budgets. And by the way, if you didn't do your job in business, you didn't get paid. You don't show up and do your job, you don't get paid. Why are we getting paid? We shouldn't get paid if we don't do our job. We need to figure out how to work together to get our budgets done. It's as simple as that.
So you're going to offer legislation to not get paid during shutdowns?
Absolutely. I already have a bill. We've got a bill that we don't get paid during the shutdown. Ron Johnson's got a bill that will never have shutdowns. That should pass also. But on top of that, what are the Democrats doing? This is a clean resolution. All we're doing is keeping the funding. Actually, the funding is too high. It's still the Biden funding. But I don't want to shut down government, so I support it. But the Democrats, they want a shutdown for whatever reason. How is this good for the country? Nobody wins with a shutdown.
I hear you.
Honestly, Rick Scott is completely correct. I can't imagine somebody like Senator Chuck Schumer here getting his greasy paws on a paycheck while he's solely responsible, essentially, for this government shutdown. It's absolutely abhorrent that that happens, and I hope that that bill does get passed. I'm sure we'll see a lot less government shutdowns if it does. Now, as promised, of course, speaking of the devil, here is Chuck Schumer talking about this government shutdown where he, of course, absolves himself of all responsibility and 100% blames President Donald Trump for what he says Trump did, which is, according to him, barreled us into a new government shutdown. It's absolutely sickening to listen to, but it's just so see-through at this point that you can't even be mad, you know? It's all see-through because social media just destroys their narratives before they can even be set. But take a listen to what he says.
The first full day of Donald Trump's government shutdown. Donald Trump and Republicans have barreled us into a shutdown because they refuse to protect Americans' health care. It's clear that the way out of this shutdown is to sit down and negotiate with Democrats to address the looming health care crisis that faces tens of millions of American families.
Once again, not Americans' health care. They were advocating for illegal aliens' health care. And they'll tell you that they weren't, but it's a big loophole where what they're advocating for is for the states to be allowed to provide the health care still. Trust me on this. It's a war of words and semantics, but the message is ultimately clear. It's all about health care for illegal aliens, aka the Democrats' future voters that they're watching all dry up as Trump continues to deport them out of this country and deny them, rightfully so, of all these social programs like health care.
Democrats want to avert this crisis, but Republicans tried to bully us, and it's clear they can't. They don't have the votes. The way out of this is for Republicans to finally roll up their sleeves and get to work. Republicans need to get serious and start actually addressing the looming crisis and reopen the government. Now, why has all of this happened? Why are we here on October 1st? Because Republicans have tried to stick us with a partisan CR that fails to protect Americans' health care and does nothing to fix the health care mess that they created.
And of course, he just continues to go on and lie and lie and lie. Wasn't the Republicans who created a healthcare disaster. That actually dates as far back as Obama and his administration, which is now widely recognized as the most disastrous move in healthcare ever. Obamacare was essentially a ginormous flop. Trump has only ever tried to make the most out of that and to try to save it, which in my opinion, he probably shouldn't have done. But here we are regardless. On top of that, the immigration crisis we're seeing in America, that's a Democrat issue. They deliberately opened our borders and left them open. And now they have the nerve to demand funding for these people, which directly opposes the agenda of not only President Donald Trump, but we all need to be reminded of something here. This is democracy in action that we're watching happen. Not Chuck Schumer here, but what we're watching Trump do is democracy in action. The man won not just the Electoral College, but the popular vote, all 7 swing states. Every single state in America shifted more to the right, even California and New York. The House, the Senate, all won by Republicans. The Supreme Court, majority Republican. The people have spoken. Trump is, in fact, acting on a mandate, whether you like that or not. And the Democrats, like Chuck Schumer, are directly stepping in and opposing that mandate. They're opposing Trump's agenda. They're opposing the people by asking for ludicrous amounts of money, like in the form of $1.5 trillion, to literally reverse everything Trump has done this year. That's what they're asking for. Make no bones about it. They're mad at all the work Trump has gotten done so far. He's working incredibly fast, faster than any president I've ever seen in my lifetime. He's definitely the hardest working president I've ever lived through so far, and probably ever will live through. And the Democrats hate that. It's destroying their plans. So they're trying to undo it all, and they're holding the government hostage while they do so. That's what this is. And he thinks he looks good there. Schumer, mind you. He thinks this is his standing moment where he looks incredible. He stood up to Trump on behalf of Democrats, and the government shut down because of it. He thinks this makes him look good. I don't think if we see throughout the course of today or even into tomorrow 300,000 or 400,000 federal workers lose their jobs, that's going to make Chuck Schumer look good, is it? I think even the Democrats at that point are going to look at him like an absolute moron. And even funnier, even the liberally heavily biased New York Times put out a poll that agrees with that. Take a look at the results here. New York Times Siena poll, dated September 22nd through the 27th. Views on whether the Democrats should or should not shut down the government if their demands are not met. All respondents, only 27% think that the Democrats should shut down the government. 65% voted that the Democrats should not shut down the government. 47% of Democrats are in favor of it, but 43% aren't, with the gray area being the middle, and that still technically winds up being the majority, along with independents who, mind you, the Democrats need to be fighting just as hard to maintain favorability with, because on their own, with just their own shrinking base of voters, they cannot win future elections without the independents, and 59% of independents think that the Democrats should not shut down the government. Of course, 92% of Republicans also feel that way as well. I got to be honest with you, I might find myself in that 5% because I love what I'm seeing. I love watching these blue states lose all of their federal funding. I love watching useless government workers finally losing their jobs, saving taxpayers millions, even billions of dollars per year now. I mean, it's great. The silver lining in all of this has been fantastic. Now, what's even funnier, Chuck Schumer was pissed about this poll, and he tried to say openly on the floor, on the Senate floor, he tried to say, well, we all know New York Times is biased. I mean, in what way? Yeah, we know they're biased. They've been biased towards liberals for forever. And he's trying to say it's a biased poll that he doesn't agree with and disregards, and they're clearly out to get him. I mean, take a look at this.
Now, I know the leader is going to show a poll that says that Democrats will be blamed for the shutdown. There are many more polls that show Republicans are blamed. The question in that poll is biased. Biased. In the New York Times, but it's biased. If you turn the... That's true. I don't always believe the New York Times. You can be sure of that. Neither do you. Okay.
What an absolute idiot. And you know, he is coming out of this looking absolutely horrible. Like I stated, blue states losing all of their funding now during this shutdown at the hands of Russ Vogt, Trump's absolute Terminator unit of a man firing useless government workers and shutting down the blue states. It's amazing. And then it makes Chuck Schumer look terrible. Who comes out on top from this besides Trump, though? That would be none other than actually Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You see, many people think that behind the scenes, she's kind of been pulling the strings here politically. She's young, she's up and coming, she's also from New York. Therefore, she's actually a direct threat to Senator Chuck Schumer when it comes to his seat. The aging Chuck Schumer. I mean, I shouldn't even say aging. The man is old as dirt. He's been a prominent figure of New York politics for decades now, and his time is coming, and he knows it. He's also received backlash from many of these far more left and extreme political candidates like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for supporting Trump too much, which I don't understand how they come to that conclusion. Chuck Schumer has defied Trump every chance he gets, but in normal circumstances like this, Schumer would have probably been inclined to encourage the Democrats to vote on this bill in favor to keep the government open. That's normally how this would have probably happened, if not for pressure on his heels from people like AOC, who despise Trump and think the Democrats should defy him at every turn. And so that's essentially what's been going on behind the scenes. Like I stated in yesterday's episode, this government shutdown is honestly much more of a reflection of Democrat Party infighting than anything else from across the aisle. Of course, it's about defying Trump, but even more so, it's about almost a civil war occurring inside of the Democrat Party. And here you can see the way Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is handling this interview on MSNBC about it, where she kind of tells people that they can call her office, which is very, very interesting. Essentially, she's reaching over the top of Chuck Schumer and taking the bull by the horns. She wants people to call her office, not Schumer's, her office. Take a listen.
Let me ask you this. There are some people I have seen who have the following theory of why Senate Democrats have not cut a deal where they give 8 votes and move along. And that is that Chuck Schumer is worried about a primary challenge from you and is worried about the politics to his left flank. And so because of that worry about a primary challenge, he's going to shut down the government. Ergo, it is AOC's fault that the government's shutting down, or that you're somehow the kind of fulcrum of this. And I want to just ask you straight up, like, are you planning to primary challenge him? Do you think that's why he's doing this?
This is so not about me. In this moment, this is about people being able to insure their children. And I will say, because I saw some senators speculating about this, and I saw some Republican members of Congress saying, oh, well, if we have this shutdown, it's because of AOC. Well, if that's the case, my office is open, and you are free to walk in and negotiate with me directly. Because what I'm not going to do is tolerate 4 million uninsured Americans because Donald Trump decided one day that he wants to just make sure that kids are dying because they don't have access to insurance. That's what's not going to happen. And so if those senators think that we're having a shutdown because of me, they're free to enter my office and negotiate, because what we're not going to do is allow all of millions of people in this country to not be able to afford their insulin and their chemotherapy. So come strike a deal with me if that's what they really think is going on.
Pretty fascinating choice of words there, since she really doesn't actually have all that much power to actually do the negotiations. So the invite is almost meaningless, but it still speaks very loudly about what's actually going on behind the scenes, doesn't it? Notice how she completely dodged the question about if she was going to attempt to primary Senator Chuck Schumer for his seat in next year's elections. She wouldn't answer it. She deflected, as Democrats always do, using virtue signaling tactics. I'm worried about children and their health care. What kind of children, AOC? Which children? Are you worried about American children? Or are you talking about the illegal immigrant children? Which ones? She doesn't specify on that either, of course, but all that to say, the point is very clear. The vibe is very clear. The energy there is very clear about what's happening. I think, by the way, there's no way Schumer doesn't lose his seat. I think he did this as a last-ditch effort so that he can argue behind the scenes that he stood up to Trump. But it makes him look foolish because the government shutdown is infinitely worse for all the reasons mentioned on this video thus far. The Democrats look weak. They look pathetic. They're unable now to stop Trump at all. And, you know, with this shutdown, the Democrats used all of these warnings. This was going to be it. Our economy is going to be crippled because of a government shutdown. The Republicans need to negotiate with us. All we're asking for is $1.5 trillion for illegal immigrants and free health care for everybody and all the illegal immigrant babies. And oh my God, we want to open the borders again. And you got to give them voting rights. That's all we want. And if you don't give it to us, your economy's going to crumble. Well, even worse news for the Democrats broke yesterday. The S&P 500 closed at record highs with no way to explain it because the government shutdown had already occurred, and all day yesterday the S&P 500 continued to rise. People's faith in the stock market and thus their faith in the Trump economy continued to soar. The government shutdown means nothing to the everyday voter when it comes to their confidence in Trump and the economy. Take a look at this.
Stocks shaking off the shutdown, charging higher. The S&P 500 hitting 6,700 for the first time ever. A new all-time closing high for the Dow as well, fractionally. The NASDAQ, the best performer today, but closing just short of a record. Healthcare, once again, the best performing sector. That's thanks to drug stocks. Utilities, also a gainer.
So the stock market is just performing exceptionally, regardless of what the Democrats try to do to sabotage President Donald Trump. And then on the other end, you have Timu Obama over here, Dollar Tree Obama, I've heard him called even. Hakeem Jeffries saying he hasn't heard from the White House since Monday. Yeah, go home, loser. No. Nobody wants to talk to you, you idiot. Not to mention the fact that anytime you hear this guy speak, it takes him, I don't know, I'd say about 3 minutes per sentence with the way he talks. I mean, he talks the way I used to type when I was learning how to type in first grade, for the love of God. It is insulting to my intelligence to listen to this guy talk. So, of course, he hasn't heard from anybody since Monday. Nobody wants to talk to him. Nobody. Here he is absolutely embarrassing himself, though, on CNN, the network where you think the Democrats are safe, especially in front of somebody like Jake Tapper. But Jake Tapper recently, he's been calling people out a little bit more, and he doesn't actually hesitate to kind of force Hakeem Jeffries to answer this question when caught in the lie live on air. Take a look.
Donald Trump blessed it as well.
So let me ask you about a provision that the Republicans are talking about quite a bit. I know you want to talk about, and Democrats want to talk about, extending the Obamacare subsidies, which expire at the end of 2025. But they talk about the provisions, and it's right here, Subtitle E, and this has to do with the repeal of health care subtitle changes, and specifically what it is. How they characterize it is you want to give health insurance to undocumented immigrants. I understand that's not really an accurate depiction, but what it does do is...
It's a lie.
It's a lie, but what you support does bring back funding for emergency Medicaid to hospitals, some of which does pay for undocumented immigrants and people who don't have health insurance. And also there is this provision, and it's not about undocumented immigrants, it's about people with asylum seekers and people with temporary protected status, et cetera, but about their ability to get Medicaid. So they're non-citizens, they're not undocumented, they're not illegal. Why even include that in a bill, knowing that they're going to seize right upon that and use that to message?
What an uncomfortable situation for Hakeem Jeffries, being called out with straight facts by a network he thought he was safe on in front of a guy he probably thought would never ask these kinds of questions, Jake Tapper. Throwing it right in his face and saying, well, listen, no matter what you say, you are kind of pushing for the funding of illegal immigrants with the Democrats' proposal to keep the government open. Again, 1.5 trillion. I say that so much. I'm aware I can't stop saying 1.5 trillion, but it's a Looney Tunes amount of money. I couldn't believe my eyes when I read that was the Democrats' demand. You can see here, poor Hakeem, and I love this. Excellent photo. That just sums it up beautifully. Behind the scenes, I'm sure Jake Tapper was told, man, you shouldn't have been asking those kind of questions. And it gets worse for Hakeem Jeffries as well. Unfortunately, I can't play the sound on this video, but President Donald Trump has taken every opportunity to absolutely mock Hakeem Jeffries, who's been trying to deny that it's not about the illegal immigrants, the mostly Mexican illegal immigrants. And so Trump, using a combination of AI and Photoshop here, roasted him on his official pages, posting a video of Chuck Schumer speaking and Hakeem Jeffries standing there wearing a Mexican sombrero. You can see right here. And again, I can't play it because of copyright music, but every word Chuck Schumer is saying is also AI edited. It's not anything he's actually said. He's basically admitting that his party is so unpopular with black people and Mexican people, and they want the free healthcare for illegal immigrants who, once they learn how to speak English, won't like them either. I mean, it's a riot. You got to check it out if you, for some reason, haven't already seen it. But Hakeem Jeffries took this horrendously. He was deeply wounded and offended, and so he actually went on the air to talk about this and address the meme.
Could you give us your reaction to that Trump posted video tonight?
It's a disgusting video, and we're going to continue to make clear bigotry will get you nowhere. We are fighting to protect the health care of the American people in the face of an unprecedented Republican assault.
President Donald Trump would double down on the joke and on the meme, not taking Hakeem Jeffries' feelings into consideration one bit. Reports came in on CNN today of Trump trolling the entire briefing room with the meme, forcing the music to play on the speakers and the meme to play on all of the televisions in the press briefing room. And it's even funnier to listen to this dunce, Caitlin Collins, I think her name is, the absolute moron, liberal CNN reporter, being the one to have to report on this.
For Vice President Vance, not just defending that AI racist video of Minority Leader Jeffries wearing a sombrero, but also like celebrating that video. And it was playing on a loop in the briefing room today. What are you hearing from the inside about that?
It was not only just playing on a loop in the briefing room. If you've never been in the press briefing room, for those who haven't, there are loudspeakers overhead so you can hear announcements or what's being said, or if there's an event going on with the president in the Rose Garden, for example. They were playing that mariachi music as well over the loudspeakers for all the press that was coming in and out of the White House today inside the press briefing room. It just kind of gives you a window, John, into how they're dealing with this and how they believe they have the upper hand when it comes to the messaging here, and also kind of how things have changed from the first time Donald Trump was in office. I mean, there was a shutdown then. I remember all 35 days of it. As the president said at the beginning, he'd be proud to shut the government down, and then it ended, obviously, with him not getting the money for his border wall. This time, you know, there's a moment here. They're being heavily criticized over these posts by the president, by Democrats, and instead of backing off or apologizing for it, they're leaning into it, and they're playing the music over loudspeakers and on repeat inside the briefing room because they simply don't care about that criticism.
You're damn right we don't care about that kind of criticism, because guess what? Political correctness died last November when the American people woke up, rose up, and voted in President Donald Trump. Not only do we not care, we actually care, because I'm thrilled to see stuff like this being posted by our president. This is our culture healing. We lean into what offends these sensitive pussy liberals nowadays because f*** them. That's our honest opinions. F*** you. F*** you and your self-righteous, self-aggrandizing, narcissistic nature. That's our true thoughts. And so I love President Donald Trump posting these memes. I love watching Hakeem Jeffries cry about it. I love watching salty, liberal, disgusting women on CNN report on it, being forced to admit that the culture of America is changing before their eyes and that they're powerless to stop this. And just for the record, for your own viewing pleasure, I managed to find a cell phone video of the press briefing room. The reports are true. This is not a lie. Trump was, in fact, trolling the entire briefing room with the meme on the televisions and the music playing over the loudspeakers. I mean, look at this. There it is. It's just on there. That is great. And even last night, just before 8 p.m., the official White House X page posted this as well. They stated, every day Democrats keep the government shut down, the sombrero gets 10 times bigger. Democrat shutdown with a trademark. God, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. But fear not, Hakeem Jeffries and liberals who are outraged over these memes. There is hope after all. Yesterday, our own incredible vice president and future 48th president of the United States, J.D. Vance, gave Hakeem Jeffries an ultimatum, gave him a way out. The memes will stop if the government reopens. I'll leave you with that, and be sure to subscribe right now to American Advocates for more content like this, unless, of course, You, for some reason, talk like Hakeem Jeffries, and you also think he's the next Obama and a future president of this country. If that's you, oh God, please dislike this video. Dislike it, block the channel. Don't leave a comment. Just get off. Just get off this channel. Go subscribe to David Pakman and fantasize about being able to make out with him, because this channel right here, this channel's not for you. But without further ado, our incredible vice president and future 48th president giving Hakeem Jeffries the ultimate ultimatum.
Okay, go ahead and ask the second question.
So the president's been posting some images of Leader Jeffries and Senator Schumer
I saw
recently. You've said that you're interested in good faith negotiations with these leaders, but what message does that send? Is it helpful to post pictures of Leader Jeffries in a sombrero if you're trying to have good faith talks with him?
Oh, I think it's funny. The president's joking, and we're having a good time. You can negotiate in good faith while also poking a little bit of fun at some of the absurdities of the Democrats' positions, and even, poking some fun at the absurdity of the Democrats themselves. I mean, I'll tell Hakeem Jeffries right now, I make this solemn promise to you that if you help us reopen the government, the sombrero memes will stop.
And now for our next story. Netflix came under some incredibly hot water specifically yesterday, as cancel Netflix wound up trending on X, especially after Elon Musk wound up speaking out publicly against it for a whole host of different reasons, mind you. I believe it started with the fact that a new Netflix show is now featuring a transgender main character, which of course upset a lot of conservative viewers. But then over time, over the course of all day yesterday, more and more people were doing research on Netflix, and more damning evidence and information was being released about them, to the point of where it all culminated to this trend of cancel Netflix, people posting screenshots even. I'll show you that in a little bit here, of them canceling their membership. But first I want to point out some of the damning evidence that came out of Netflix invoking DEI at the expense of possibly white people here. This was a graph that was posted on X by the libs of TikTok, where they state that it appears Netflix openly boasts about discriminating against white people. In their inclusion and diversity report, they celebrate that the percentage of racially underrepresented directors and lead characters has been growing significantly over the past few years. And you can see that right here on the page in the middle in the text. In 2023, of the 63 series creators of Netflix series programs, 73% were white and 27% were from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group. Of all creators in 2023, 9.5% were Black and African American, 4.8% were Hispanic Latino, 6.3% were Asian, 1.6% were Middle Eastern North African, and 4.8% were multiracial, multi-ethnic. Compared to 2022, 16.8%, and 2018, 8.4%. So it is indeed on the rise from 8% to 16% to now 27%. It goes on to say Netflix featured significantly more underrepresented creators in 2023. And you can see all the graphs here. Netflix in the red on that bar graph below, the industry standard being the yellow represented bar graphs. So they are actively pushing for this in a DEI sense. It's not about merit is what the problem is here, of course. And you can see on this page right here as well, it goes even further. Percentage of Netflix series with an underrepresented lead and co-lead. And you can see the year by year there, 25% to start in 2018. But in 2023, 71.4% with an underrepresented lead or co-lead. Now, ironically, if 71.4% of Netflix series have an underrepresented lead, then how are they underrepresented anymore? That's the new question now, isn't it? You can see under that, percentage of series industry-wide with an underrepresented lead, and even that's been growing, 22% in 2018, 58.1% in 2023. So once again, the majority of circumstances now of series in industry-wide standards as well as Netflix have an underrepresented, and I say that in quotations, an underrepresented lead or co-lead. And you can see here all of this got quite the response from conservatives on X, ultimately leading to it catching the attention of Elon Musk. Once again, of course, going back to the transgender agenda, which is what he ultimately wound up retweeting here from another page, but he does specifically call for people to cancel the Netflix. And he says, do it for the health of your own kids. And then when you scroll down, you can see the meme that he's retweeting The Trojan horse full of transgender woke agenda being brought right into your kids by Netflix. This, of course, did wind up leading to a mass cancellation of Netflix memberships yesterday. You can see here, this is a culmination of just a few screenshots from people posting it on X of them actually canceling their Netflix accounts. And ultimately, this wound up having a massive effect on Netflix's stock, which dropped by over 2.5% yesterday as a result of this. Elon Musk's tweet leading the charge on this, of course. You can see it actually got media attention on CNBC right here.
Welcome back to Fast Money. Netflix shares falling over 2% today after Elon Musk urged his followers on X to cancel their subscriptions. Musk taking issue with the presence of a transgender character on one of the streaming platform shows. He posted, "Cancel Netflix for the health of your kids," this morning. Our Steve Kovac has more on all of this drama. Steve?
Oh, boy, here we go. Look at the power of an Elon Musk tweet, Mel, because the targeted rage of that tweet and of his fans and followers, they sent Netflix shares down 2% today after Musk spent part of his day tweeting about that Netflix show called Dead End Paranormal Park, which features a transgender character. It's an animated show, by the way. Now, I think you guys can see where this is going. Musk called on his followers to cancel Netflix and said he already did so himself. He also criticized Netflix's DEI policies and pointed to it as another reason to cancel the service. There's also a lot of Charlie Kirk talk being thrown in there as well. Now, look, Dead End Paranormal Park, it was actually canceled back in 2023 after a 20-episode run of the show in 2022, so about 3 years old. The show is still hosted on Netflix like any other canceled originally programming Netflix has made. Now, it appears that the X account called Libs of TikTok discovered the show and posted about it on X, which drew Musk's attention and anger. Now, Variety reporting today, the creator of the show said he's been receiving anti-Semitic and homophobic comments following Musk's post today. Variety also reported he had to take a social media break to all the comments and harassment he received from Musk and his fans. Now, Netflix did not respond to a request for comment, but here you go again, seeing the richest guy in the world, Mel, playing around in the culture wars.
And I love how they also give the page Libs of TikTok a shout out. I discovered this page because of the death of Charlie Kirk, sadly, where I was outraged at what I was seeing when it came to the liberals celebrating his death. They were devoted, this page, and still are devoted to tracking down these people and dealing out consequences, legal ones, of course, i.e. getting these people fired from their jobs. I've been following them ever since. And speaking of them, as according to that report on CNBC, they posted this. This was some interesting facts here regarding a lot of companies and businesses, but Netflix is listed in here when it comes to election contributions. Netflix, of course, donated $4.4 million all to Democrats. Surprise, surprise. And when it comes to just how serious the woke agenda is being pushed by Netflix onto your children, possibly when you're not around, and just in general onto everyone in the American public, in a true tone-deaf manner, by the way, because we're past that point now. Like I said earlier in this episode, that woke political correct stuff died back in November when we voted in President Donald Trump, but Netflix continues to push it anyway. Benny Johnson, a very prominent conservative right-wing political commentator, actually really does a good job of dressing down Netflix here very well and pointing out just how woke Netflix has gotten and why you absolutely should consider canceling them. I'll leave you off with him making his statements because he wraps it up all perfectly. Be sure to subscribe, of course, to American Advocates for more content like this, unless you're still one of those people that just insist on Netflixing and chilling, because I don't know about you, but these days I rumble and chill. That's my preferred method for that. And I typically prefer to watch channels like Steven Crowder on the Rumble or The Crucible instead of Netflix series that feature transgender main characters. But maybe that's just me. However, if you're still watching those Netflix shows, be sure to dislike this video and never come back. But without further ado, Benny Johnson.
Why this Netflix cancellation campaign has gone so viral, with hundreds of thousands of people canceling their Netflix subscriptions, including Elon Musk. It's the #1 trend in the world, and Netflix has lost billions of dollars in their stock. You can see right here, an absolute collapse today. The reason why this is actually happening isn't your standard red versus blue political issue. It's a lot deeper than that. It's a moral issue. Have you seen what Netflix has been putting in their children's shows? This isn't like we're trying to push one way or the other. We want Democrats to win. You know, we want like everyone like socialism. Like, it's not like that, okay? Open borders even. It's so much worse. They're sexualizing children. It's got to be the single most radical thing you can do, the single most morally indefensible thing you can do. And I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to play you all the clips. I'm going to show you what they're putting into their programming. That's why this has gone so viral, because Netflix has truly crossed the line. If you believe that this is wrong, you should also cancel your Netflix. Okay, here we go. Here's the mashup of every time Netflix has put transgender, sexualized, radical ideology into their children's programming.
How about you break out those moves for your two biggest fans?
I know I'm safe when I'm with my friends or other non-binary people.
Non-binary?
People who aren't female or male. Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have assumed.
Nightshades pronouns are they, them.
He or she just doesn't fit who I am.
My apologies. Please switch therapies.
I'm trans, Norma. And everyone at school knows, and everyone at home knows. And being here, it's like a whole new place.
It's Cherry Chip reporting from the wedding of the year. Everyone's favorite karate instructor, Sensei Dave, will be marrying mixed martial arts champion Jiu-Jitsu Joe.
He's the undisputed champion of my heart.
Everything okay, friend?
Oh, the last time I saw my grandma, I used a different name and pronouns.
Cancel your Netflix.
And now for the final story of the morning here, returning back to that very disturbing city now that exists within America, Dearborn Heights, Michigan. I originally broke that story here on YouTube. I was guaranteed likely the first place you saw that story breaking on when it came to the police uniform badges that they're debuting as optional for now for their police officers, where you can see Arabic language written on it to reflect the growing Muslim community emerging in that city. It is now, according to the demographics I've seen, 52% Muslim, so it's actually a Muslim majority, which would be a first here in America. And the controversy over this police badge just continued to go viral on the internet. I actually still get views on that video to this day. And now I'm revisiting that place because it's trending once again. And it turns out a lot more developments have taken place when it comes to Muslims, Islam, etc. and Dearborn Heights, Michigan. They didn't just stop with the police badge. Their police chief is now openly boasting about how they've taken their police force from just 3% Muslim to now 50%, half their force is Muslim. And on top of that, he is now speaking Arabic on the mic at his press conferences in Michigan, in America, praising Allah after announcing it.
When I joined the department, Dearborn's Arab American population was nearly 50%, yet less than 3% of our police. It's now a department that reflects and embraces the community it serves, with 45% of our officers being Arab American. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. I'm proud to serve as your chief of police.
I don't know about you, but I just wouldn't feel all that American living in a city where my police chief is speaking Arabic on the mic, praising a God I don't believe in, a God who, by the way, has no part in the founding of America. He's certainly not the Christian God. And then on top of it, the police force is becoming 50% Muslim. The politicians are Muslim. The people are marching in the streets, throwing Muslim parades. And I'm going to show you way more that's happening there. I just wouldn't feel like it's an American city. What do you think, though? Let me know in the comments below how you feel about a police chief in America speaking Arabic and praising the Islamic God, Allah. But they've taken it another step further from beyond that as well. Beyond the police department, they are now naming their streets after their own Muslim heroes, some of whom have praised Hezbollah, like this one here. Take a look at this. Osama Siblani, for those who are watching or just listening rather. Honorary street named after Osama Siblani. You're now driving down Osama Siblani Way. Isn't that nice? But okay. Let's say you can, for some reason, ignore the fact that your politicians are now mostly Muslim. You can ignore the fact that your police force is 50% Muslim. Your police chief is praising Allah at the podium, giving credit to his Islamic God. You can ignore driving down Osama Siblani Way. You could ignore the fact that your street names are all changing to Muslim figures and heroes instead of just good old-fashioned American last names like you'd typically expect to drive down in America. Could you ignore this? These are now the most recent reports coming in from September 27th, where apparently in Dearborn, Michigan, the call to Muslim prayer is being blared on megaphone loudspeakers multiple times a day. I think it's 5 times a day, with the earliest one starting at 6 a.m., the crack of dawn. Very, very loud, disrupting neighborhoods without any care at all. Make no mistake about it, they're setting this up in a way where they can't be ignored. And these are just according to the historical patterns we've always seen. They come in and they're very friendly. But over time, they're basically almost ordered to spread their religion across the world. And that's exactly what they do. It's in their doctrine to do so. In fact, we can even see the level of hostility being dished out to an average everyday American Michigan resident right here when speaking with a Muslim mayor in Michigan about all of this, about how he doesn't like that his street names are being changed to honor Muslim heroes who praise Hezbollah and who praise acts that we as Americans find detestable. And the Muslim mayor becomes incredibly offended to the point of where he essentially tells the American he's not welcomed here. You got to see this to believe it. This is happening in our government buildings, paid for by American tax dollars, and happening now to Americans.
Stayed for several weeks in Palestine, and I feel like, but despite that, I feel like having that sign up there, it's almost like having, naming a street Hezbollah Street or Hamas Street. I mean, Hezbollah, bombed the embassy in Beirut, and including many Americans. So I just feel that's quite inappropriate. And as a Christian, I would like to encourage peace. I'm not just being like, pro-Israel in this and, fight back and that sort of thing, but I would like to encourage peace and not violence. Actually, I'd like to quote from the words of someone who had the same enemy. It was Jewish people who killed Jesus. He was Jewish, but his fellow Jewish people killed him. And he said, the one who lives by the sword will die by the sword. And what I would like to encourage on the other side is peace. He is called the Prince of Peace, and he said, blessed are the peacemakers. And his death at the hands of Jewish people opens the door to peace between Jewish and non-Jewish people. So that's what I would like to actively try to encourage to you. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Byron. Sir, if you'd like to step forward.
I think the only comment I'm going to make, because I'm not looking for a rebuttal, is the best suggestion I have for you is to not drive on Warren Avenue, or to close your eyes while you're doing it. His name is up there, and I spoke at a ceremony celebrating it because he's done a lot for this community. And I think it's quite hypocritical to know that you're approaching this podium when you yourself have videos on YouTube standing in front of my mosque saying the cruelest of things about Muslims, about the religion of Islam, because you are a bigot and you are a racist and you are an Islamophobe. And although you live here, I want you to know as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city.
And so there you go. That's a mayor in America who's a Muslim who is openly telling an average everyday American, a traditional American by the sound of it, a Christian American, that he doesn't belong in his own city, in America, and that he's a bigot for being a Christian and for being outspoken against Muslims and for being outspoken against the street names being changed to honor Muslims from another country who honor Hezbollah and honor Benghazi and all kinds of other war crimes and tragedies. It's a very reasonable stance for the everyday American to have, but not any longer in Dearborn, Michigan, 52% Muslim population. More and more political candidates there are Muslim, and this is what's happening right here inside of America. According to this mayor, he will throw a parade the day that he learns that this white American citizen leaves his majority Muslim city now. That's the state of things in Dearborn Heights, Michigan, and that's why I'm bringing up this story once again to report on it. You see, it didn't stop with a optional Arabic police badge. They're upping the ante. They're raising the stakes. They're increasing the intensity inside that city now. That mayor would later go on to create this kind of an ad now where he has published a Muslim magazine written exclusively in Arabic for new incoming Muslim citizens in his town, showcasing different hotspots of the city, where to go to eat, etc. It's only in Arabic, not in English whatsoever.
Not sure what's happening in Dearborn? Dearborn now has its own magazine. We're mailing the magazine to every household across Dearborn. You can read in English or
notice the Arabic subtitles on this video.
Even has a tear-out of all the events happening this season. And given the limited number of coffee shops, we decided to make it easy for you to find one. Check your mailboxes, as it should be dropping any day.
Again, you can see why I don't have much to say anymore. I don't know what to even do about this. Dearborn Heights, Michigan, it might even be too late for the people, the citizens of that city, to take back their city. It'll be interesting to watch all of the coming events unfold there as they continue to look more and more like the United Kingdom there now. This is a personal testimony from a woman living in Dearborn Heights, addressing all of the criticisms coming from other liberals in America about how it's not that bad and, you know, it's just the Muslim people and they're friendly and everything else. And liberals, of course, deny these reports. They deny that this stuff happens, or they insist it's not that bad. They always gaslight for the rivals to America. They're always on the wrong side of history. And so this woman, currently living in Dearborn Heights, Michigan, sets it straight, giving her own personal accounts as well as some of the accounts and stories she's heard from her closest friends who are also women living there. Listen to what they're going through now in that city.
So, as a woman that grew up 10 minutes from Dearborn and spent the majority of my time in that area growing up, I will tell you that a woman cannot walk down the street in East Dearborn and not get harassed in some way or even spit on. I've seen friends of mine get spit on for not covering their hair and their face. You will not pass a building that is not written in Arabic. You cannot read anything. It's like being in a third world country. Now, I know that there'll be pushback on this video and people will say, that's not true. You know, American women can walk down the street in Dearborn. Well, I'm telling you right now that it is absolutely true. And I have several times walked down the street in Dearborn and been harassed. My friends have been spit on. And it happens every day down there. And another thing, I remember growing up, you know, after 9/11, driving down the street, actually on Warren Avenue in Dearborn, and everyone, all of these Muslims lined up on the street, cheering and screaming, beeping their horns. They were celebrating it, and that is exactly what they were doing. So yes, what you're hearing about Dearborn is absolutely true. Yes, it is.